Everybody, good morning. Today we have our topic is overweight or obese and women's health. Okay. So my name is Ange, your host, or Anjali, if you like to call me in full form. I'm health and wellness coach, and I'm the founder of this page. Okay, so I'm just going to wave. And today we have special guest, Fathima, and she is a cultural dietitian and weight loss expert, and she helps overwhelmed women lose weight without giving up their cultural food, especially African plus South Asian cuisine. Okay, and she helps, and she has the she's saying discover the Eat Smart method. Yeah, Eat Smart method. So she is not here yet. So I was going to talk about yesterday. So when she has mentioned here, cultural weight loss, amazing, they help women without giving up their cultural food. So yesterday, when I was listening to Dr. Fiona Wheeler, and she was talking about non-diet approach for dietitians. So I thought that was amazing, that because everyone is talking about these days diet, dieting, about cutting out the food and everything like that. But if there are approaches, that non-diet approaches for our community, that is amazing. And another one, just today, Dr. Rian gave me the information resources of Dr. Judith Orloff, and she talked about the energy of food, and empath people seem to eat when they are stressed and having a panic. So I'm going to accept. Okay, something happened. She didn't come on. Yes, she is. Hi, Fatima. How are you?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good.
I'm good.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to our platform and educating us. And because I think this is so much needed topic to talk on. It's misunderstood in so many ways.
Yes, absolutely.
So yes, and so I think it is very important for us to. It can be very difficult topic or to talk on, but if we don't talk on it, then people will never understand,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ins and out when it comes to overweight, and it can be controversial, and it can be difficult. So it is a
Yes,
very complex issue managing our weight. So
yes,
lots to delve
yes,
into.
yeah. And so we were going to, before we start the conversation, I just wanted to mention that this talk is purely for awareness and educational purposes. It's not any for diagnosis for anyone particular. So if you are having issues mentally or physically, so you please go and seek out for the professional help, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
and yeah, would you like to add on anything before we start?
Yeah, I mean, weight is, and managing your weight is always going to look so different from one person to another. And so, yeah, it's all about taking the information and adapting it to you. And that's something that I always tell people as a disclaimer, whether you're getting a meal plan from someone or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, everything it needs to be adapted to you, your unique environment,
Yeah,
personality, genetics, everything. So always good to keep that in mind.
Yeah, not just copy and paste from someone else's,
Yeah.
right?
It's never black and white. It's never black and white.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with our first question is, what is overweight looks like in women?
Yeah, so I think we probably need to understand firstly how our healthcare systems around the world
Mm-hmm.
kind of classify people. And for quite a long time, we have now used the measurement of BMI, which is body mass index. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, body mass index is your weight divided by your height squared, right? And it gives you a number. And originally, BMI was used and created by a mathematician. So
Mm-hmm.
he purely created this measurement tool just to use on a statistical measure. In fact, he never intended and even advised against it being used as a medical measure for people's health. But it was coined in a couple of years later by a different gentleman who was now into healthcare, and he with the world. I think it's the world. I'm not sure what exactly the company area is, but I think it's a World Obesity or World. I don't think it's World Health Organization, but basically, like the larger bodies decided that okay, yep, we'll adapt this tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is literally overnight people like 2 million people became defined as overweight or obese, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we now have this like classification or attachment based on
Mm-hmm.
our height and weight.
Mm-hmm.
So if you actually think about it, like it really doesn't make any sense that our health should be determined by our height versus our weight because we are so different. And of course, in today's talk, we're talking specifically about women. And so what happened is that BMI, right, this golden standard of measurement that we've decided to adapt, it doesn't factor in the fact that women distribute their weight differently or carry their fat differently or that they produce babies, right? The BMI also was based on 7 Caucasian men. Really delving into it, you will even see that the World Health Organization has also scrapped using BMI. So we're finally basically, it's come to light that this was the wrong tool to use. We adapted it, and now we're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
So even these classification terms like overweight, obese, etc., it'd be good to, I guess, understand them a little bit first.
Yeah.
Because based on the number that you get, if you are over the healthy weight range and you get a number of 25 to 30, you're considered as overweight.
Mm-hmm.
And if your result is 30 or above, you're considered as obese. So that is where that classification comes from. So when you look back at statistics, you will see that women are more, they will say that women are more likely to be obese or more likely to be overweight.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, we also know that women need to have more fat on their body because we make the babies and we need fat to regulate our hormones. So we also know that women that have very low levels of fat in their body, they lose their periods as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what does obesity or what does being overweight look like in women? Most of the time, we need to first and foremost think about, well, what tool are we using to define that, right? Because a lot of the time, the weight will be carried on the bust, hips, thighs, right? And that is not really correlated or associated with health risk. What is associated with health risk is the amount of fat that we carry on our tummy, right? So I always tell my clients that if I was to give you like, you know, a 10 kg bag of rice or flour and told you to strap it onto your back and then go about and do your daily work, you wouldn't function as well,
Yeah.
correct? So similarly, all the organs, vital organs that sit in the small space of ours, having excessive weight put on them or having excessive fat around them means they don't function well. And that is the basis of a lot of health conditions that we see associated with weight, right? Is that when you are carrying excessive amount of fat around your vital organs, this is where your health starts, getting affected. But being someone who is curvy or carrying excess fat on your bust or your hips or your arms, which is very typical for women, is not strongly correlated to chronic disease. And that's the biggest thing. So when we start looking at statistics online, yes, you're going to see men are less likely to be overweight than women, but we really need to break it down a little bit further in terms of well, what does that look like in terms of what a female actually needs to function versus a man. We're different. We're physiologically different. They have more testosterone. We have more estrogen. We are the ones that grow babies. They don't.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of differences. And so it's very hard, I guess, to compare it from one gender to another. But definitely when it comes to the reasons why or the approaches that we use etc when it comes to women, it's of course it's quite different, and we will delve into that a little bit more. But I mean, general statistics will say that women are slightly more likely to be obese or overweight. I think it's like about 40% for men and 35%, sorry, 40% for women, 35% for men. And that's like the National Health Institute statistics, just a recent one. So yeah, I mean the statistics are there, but it's about delving into understanding a little bit more around how do we define this? Like, when should I, as a female, be worried? And that's what I'm hoping would be like a really nice takeaway at the end of this chat today, so people know, okay, well, how do I assess myself, and how do I know where's the red flags? Because the number on the scale alone and BMI alone are not going to give you an accurate representation of that.
And the social media, like how we should look like.
Oh, yeah.
And we all comparing, and
Yes.
and it is instead of comparing ourselves with the outside things, if we have the correct information and if we go to the correct health professionals, I think that would be the better idea or the best idea to to be able to have the and then accurate, not result, but the information for yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean, what is online, and I'm not just going to say online, because the reality is the weight loss industry has been around forever, before social media was even a thing. But media has always had the image of a certain woman on the cover of a magazine, right? So our perceptions of what is beautiful, our perceptions of what weight is healthy, has always been controlled by what the media pushes out to us, right? So we have different cultural norms, from country to country, it's going to look different. I know that in African culture, being big means you're more beautiful, it means you're more wealthy, it means you're more fertile.
Yeah, same.
Whereas when you go,
same in Nepal. When I was there, my mom said, "You look like a sick person. You look anorexic, so you better eat." So she wanted me to eat, eat, eat. So that's the culture, right? Yes.
Yeah. So it does change. So even the way that, or the physique that we have, very typically we will see, for example, in the fashion industry, and this has changed over the years. Before, being very tall, slender, and slim was considered beautiful. Now we have the Kim K's of the world, who have now promoted much more of an hourglass figure, which never really was a thing before. So a lot of these different things will get put into us, right? And then you've got like oh, okay, if you don't have an hourglass figure, just buy this waist trainer and you can change the shape of your body.
Yes.
And so it is a very, very deep topic. There's a lot of elements on so many different levels that influence what women want. The outside world will tell you that this is what is beautiful. So these are all going to really heavily influence us. And of course, social media has made it way more accessible. But on the flip side, I also think social media has been this amazing opportunity for things like the body positive movement and accepting people of different shapes and sizes. There's a lot more of that. So before, you just had the media pumping out, this is the beauty standard, this is what a healthy weight is, this is what it is to be healthy. And now online, everyone has a voice.
Yes.
And I kind of love that, to be honest, because
Yes.
anyone, whether it's a health professional or someone who's got a personal experience with being body shamed or whatever, we're all out there. All of our voices are out there. And it's a lot easier now for someone to find the opposite side of the story, right? So I do think that social media has had its perks in a sense. It's just, it's about being clever enough of knowing who to follow, where do you get your information from, as well, because that makes the world of the difference of what you see on your feed every day.
So Jesty Movement, she says, we know DEXA scan is gold standard for body composition. I use waist and hip a lot with my patients.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So yeah, thank you for the comment. So
DEXA is like a machine. It's quite a big machine. It is the gold standard. Of course, it's not accessible to just anyone and everyone because it is a big investment, but it is considered the gold standard. So just to clarify, body composition is basically referring to the percentage of your body that is bone versus muscle versus water versus fat, right? So it's a great way to basically get a super accurate measure to say that, okay, this percentage of your body is fat and this percentage of your body is, muscle.
muscles.
And for a lot of athletes, they will be the ones who are really aiming for these percentages because they are, of course, using their body significantly, and the way that their body makes a big difference to their performance. But for the general person, you'll never really need to invest in doing something like that. But I think a lot of gyms give you like a base test where you just stand on like a scale and put your hands on the little electrodes, and it will give you a basic amount. And what you're kind of aiming for women is about, we try not to go over 30 to 33% fat mass, right? That's where we want to look at probably reducing some of our fat mass. And for men, the standard is lower. I think we're aiming for about 20 to 25%, if I'm not mistaken. So there is different standards. And Zesty also says, I use weight and hip a lot. And yeah, that's a really easy, simple way of measuring your body composition and having measurements beyond the number on the scale as well. So when you stand on the scale, the number is going to change if you have just eaten or not been to the bathroom in a while. Your number is going to change if you just had a high salt meal or a high carb meal, because your body's going to be retaining a lot of water. And also, if you lose muscle mass or you gain muscle mass, the number is going to change. So the weight that we see on the scale is not our fat, right? It's everything in us. And that is something that it becomes very problematic for women who are trying to lose weight and only using weight as their, I guess, reference point. They stand on the scale and like they're disappointed because nothing has changed. 9 times out of 10 in clinic, my ladies will see the centimeters drop off their body and the number on the scale barely moves. So we sometimes even throw the scale away. I tell them to give it to someone, or tell someone to hide it from them, because we need to take away the power that number has in our lives. and go
Yes.
back into trusting our body. Oh, I have more energy. Oh, I'm sleeping better. You know what? My pants are feeling more comfortable around my waist, because we literally neglect all of those wins or those successes along the journey because the number didn't change. So
Yeah.
having that weight as the only thing that we use to measure our success is hard, and using things like weight and hip, bust, and thigh circumferences are really great, quick, easy ways for you to kind of have an alternative measurement that's really showing you that, you know what, my body is changing, things are happening, what all the energy and effort that I'm putting in, it's paying off. So yes, that's a great one, and a fantastic comment as well. Thanks.
Okay. Awesome. So for our new viewers who has just joined in, we are talking about overweight or obese and women's health at the same time. And if you guys can hear us, please give us a thumbs up, and we continue with another question. Okay, I think we talked about most of the things already covered. Yeah, and yeah, weight gain for women is as we know, so we covered the cultural, the different statistics in a different cultural group in women, if it's correct. Yeah. So, and the other one will be why it is different in men and women. We already spoke about that too,
Yeah.
because of the all the hormonal things, and why we need more body fat in women than men as well, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. So our hormones like estrogen and progesterone and all of those kind of things, they require good amounts of fat in the body to be well regulated, right? So we know that people with anorexia or who drop well below a particular weight will stop having their periods, because the hormones can no longer be regulated when you don't have good amounts of fat stores. So everything in health has a middle point and an extreme, right? If you have too little fat, issues. If you have too much fat, issues, right? So it is always important to remember that when we set our goals, we also need to aim for a middle point. Like, don't set your goal based on a weight that you think you should be for your height. Just set your goal based on you. It can really, really make it more achievable as well.
Awesome. So you look, instead of looking at the weights, you know, that measuring weight, the numbers, you look at the yeah. Okay, cool. So
Yeah, I
and
think
then
to add on, like the measurements that you're looking for in men, like your waist circumference, right? We want it to sit below 102, and for women, we're aiming for it to sit below 88 centimeters.
yeah, cool. So and are there so we already spoke about the why women's weight gains are different. We just spoke about that, and now we can talk about what are some easy steps that women can do to prevent these conditions, overweight or obese, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's a very broad
Yes.
question, I guess. So I'm going to try and break it down into probably risk factors, because I think that's going to be the easiest way for people to understand things, right? So the reason we want to avoid carrying excess fat on our body is it increases the risk for disease, right?
Yes.
It increases the risk for diabetes, it increases the risk for high blood pressure, increases the risk for heart disease. It increases the risk for so many other like lifestyle related conditions, right? So the reason why we want to minimize the amount of fat that our body is carrying in the abdominal area in particular is based off the fact that we want to stay healthy, right? We want to have longevity and quality in our lives. So in order to reduce the risk factors, we need to break it down in terms of, okay, well, where does the risk, what are the different lifestyle things that happen that impact the amount of fat we're going to carry? Okay, so you've got things that are modifiable, you have control over them, you can change them, and you've got things that are not modifiable. So I think I'll go through the ones that we call our non-modifiable risk factors first, because this is a lot of acceptance that a lot of people, I think, struggle with. So depending on your gender, that's already going to change your risk factor or not, right? So for example, men are at higher risk of heart disease than women. It's just how it is, right? Your age, you can't change that. As you get older, your risk will increase as well. But then your genetics as well. So genetics are basically what is hereditary, or what you basically get from your family, right? So particular families. So this is why when you go to the doctor, they will ask you your family history. Does anyone in your family have diabetes? Does anyone die from a heart attack in your family, right? Because you can inherit genes that increase your risk of heart disease, diabetes, etc. So these are not, it's not like a prescription that, okay, because I have this gene, I'm going to get it, so let me just succumb to it and let it happen, right? You can still influence whether or not that gene is going to get turned on or stay dormant based on the choices you make from your lifestyle, right? So you will inherit certain things from your family. You will inherit certain things or have certain things in you because of your ethnicity as well. Another example, Indians are prone to low vitamin D levels, right? So African populations are prone to high blood pressure and dying from ischemic stroke. These are things that we know are based off your ethnicity as well. So these things are non-controllable in terms of what you inherit. So you need to also accept that sometimes some people are going to be naturally more inclined to hold more fat than others. Your body shape or structure that you inherit is the what you get, right? That is what you have to accept, that, okay, this is my structure. If I gain weight, I gain it on my tummy, or I gain it on my hip, so I gain it on my thigh. So you know you better, right? And so this is the foundation of, I guess, things that we need to understand, that these non-modifiable factors are the things that really do make us different, and we can't change them. All right. So then we flip to what can you change? What's modifiable, right? And that is going to be the basic choices that we make in terms of the foods we eat, how active we are, our stress levels, our movement, and our sleep. Like, those are the 4 key components. I said movement twice. Those are the 4 key components: sleep, stress, what you eat, and your what did I say? Sleep, stress, movement, and what you eat. That's the one. The 4. Okay, so those are the 4 that we call our lifestyle factors, right? And then of course we have other elements that come in separate, like choosing to smoke or drinking alcohol, or those kind of things. But they generally kind of fall into the 4 main categories, right? So we can talk about the different things in terms of the habits you want to have that will reduce your risk of chronic disease under the different elements. So I'll focus on food, because of course that's my forte. But I'll quickly touch on stress and sleep and movement as well. Because they all, of course, play an equally important role, right? So the higher your stress levels are, and these are usually like chronic stress, like you're continually under stress, not like a one-off episode where you know got some bad news and you were stressed or something like that. But this is chronic stress, like you're continually under the pump. That chronic stress raises your cortisol levels in your body, and cortisol, as a stress hormone, when it's high continuously, can impact different functions in the body, including your body's fat storage mechanisms, right? So we know from research that the higher your stress levels are, the more likely you are to store or hold on to fat. The higher your stress levels are, the more likely you are to emotionally eat. The higher your stress levels are, the more likely that you're going to have poor sleep, right? So you will see that all things are very intertwined with each other, but managing your stress, right, is a fundamental component of just being in the right space, even to make decisions or make healthy choices or eating easier.
Yeah.
Sleep, you can, I always tell people this analogy. If you went to bed every night and you didn't put your phone to charge, or you didn't charge it properly, or the charger kept going on and off, when you wake up in the morning, you don't start the day with a full 100% battery.
No.
And how well or how long does your phone last, or how well does it perform? So equally, if we don't recharge our batteries properly every day, eventually things are gonna malfunction. And again, sleep will have so many different impacts in terms of our appetite. I know for one, if I go to bed late or if I have crappy sleep, the next day I am going to be eating a lot.
Yeah.
Continuously, and no matter what I eat, it's not going to satisfy my appetite, right? And that's because those stress levels are high in my body because of lack of sleep, and it's impacting the hormones that make me feel full and hungry. They're not being regulated properly because I haven't slept properly. So sleep is so important when it comes to weight management, to the point where people with sleep apnea, for example, will gain weight. We know that people who with sleep apnea have a higher risk of obesity because they're simply not charging their batteries properly every night. And how can you expect the body to function if it's not, at full capacity? So sleep is a big one. And then, of course, how active we are. If you're going to keep putting in calories or food into your body, but you're not moving, then your body's going to be in a surplus, and it's going to say, okay, well, we've got all these extra calories or all this extra energy. What do we do with it? Okay, we'll put it into storage, right? So you also need to make sure that the amount that you eat and the amount that you move match each other, right? So if you are looking to burn fat, you need to move more and eat less, right? And it's of course, we're talking very black and white, simple kind of things here. But these are some key lifestyle factors where you need to think, okay, well, how can I be more active? Could I stand and work instead of sitting and working all the time? Can I take breaks from my desk and go for a walk? Can I plan exercise into my day if I have the time and the capacity to do so? So many different things that you can just think about. How do we be more active, especially if you're someone that is bound to a desk for the most part of the day. So yeah, I might hit pause there for a second before we jump into diet, if you can guide some of the diet questions. But those are key components that we have to keep in mind in terms of our health, because we're not just what we eat. There's lots, we have to look at ourselves holistically and how all of these things are influencing us. How is our sleep impacting our ability to do things? How is our stress? How is our movement? And also all those other mental elements, like our cultural beliefs, our beliefs that the media has painted for us, all those other things, they all start coming together. And that's why weight management and my job is always different with every person, because every person walks in with a different core issue. So yeah, I'll hit pause there for a second and just hand over to you to maybe guide me through maybe some of the diet components, because it is, I guess, can be quite complex as well.
With the diet.
Yeah. Did you want me to? I felt like if you want me to keep going, I can keep talking. But if you had any particular questions around diet, maybe we could start with those.
And no, with the diet, like it's just, like as soon as we talk about diet, people, it's all about cutting out the food. You know what I mean? And then, but I have seen on your bio that I saw that not without giving up cultural food, right? So yesterday I was watching Dr. Fiona Wheeler. Her approach is non-diet approach for dietitians. So how does that work?
Right. So when it comes to, I guess, the way we perceive changing our eating habits, a lot of women, again, because of everything that kind of exists and all the stigmas and stereotypes that exist in our world, the fact that you are even on a diet or trying to lose weight, it really impacts your mental state, right? So the non-diet approach is designed around, we're not focusing on being on a diet or cutting calories or anything. We're focusing on being healthier and changing our eating habits, right? And you will find that majority of dietitians approach weight management this way, where it's not just a prescription of calories. Okay, you need to have this much carbs, this much protein, this much whatever, but rather just looking at how do we work through the mechanics of slowly reducing your portions, improving the quality of your diet, but we're approaching it in a way that is a lot more lifestyle and habit orientated, and it's a much more gentle approach, but honestly a much more sustainable approach. Because if you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, right, you need to go to surgery, but I can't take you under surgery because you need to lose 20 kilos first, then they will put you on a very, very prescriptive diet, like a medicalized diet that really controls your calories. But you have to remember that that's temporary. It's not going to be a forever solution. There's no way any human being is going to be able to live on shakes for the rest of their life, right? So we need to differentiate the difference between going on a diet that's very medical and specific versus I want to lose weight and I want to keep it off for good. So Fiona's approach, I think that was one of the first diet books I bought actually after uni. I'm pretty sure I have it just here on one of my shelves. Yeah, it's over here. And that is just basically coining and naming the approach of going at things a lot more gently when you're not really prescriptive or focused. Because in dietetics, when we learn it at uni, we focus on clinical work. So we're in the hospitals, we're prescriptive, we're writing grams and calories. And the reality is, in the real world, on a day-to-day basis, people can't sustain that. They can't sit there and count their calories all the time. They can't keep weighing their food. They can't keep trying to overthink about how much protein they're having. So you're going at it with an approach that is a lot more gentle. So for example, if someone went on a diet and they wanted to count calories, the most popular apps are MyFitnessPal and is it Calorie King? I think those are the most common ones I hear people use, right? And then you enter in your weight, your height, your gender, all of that, and it will give you a rough calculation of how much calories you need to eat per day. And then if you want to lose weight, you need to reduce by 500 calories, and then it will tell you, okay, this is what you need to do. And then you start logging in all the food that you eat. It calculates the calories, and it gives you a little report at the end of the day and tells you where you're going. And I think that can be an incredibly helpful activity to do as a once-off to just start understanding where you're at. But to do that on the regular becomes very cumbersome for most people, right? And most women are either running the house, running after their kids, running a business or have a full-time job, have social commitments, and all the other bits and bobs that we try to do all at the same time. So when we try to now add in a complex activity like counting our food, it's like we fail to do it and then we blame ourselves that we couldn't do it. But the reality is the process or the approach that you use that wasn't right for you. So we use the plate model quite regularly in practice, and I have it here so I can kind of show you guys what it is. And if you guys follow me, you'll also have seen this on my page before. But it's a really rough guide where you kind of saying at each meal you want to aim for half your plate coming from vegetables, right? A quarter of your plate coming from starches or carbohydrates, and a quarter of your plate coming from protein, with a little bit of space for some fats, right? So this could be the oil you cook with, or the salad dressing, or maybe you've got some avocado on your salad or something like that. And then, of course, your carbohydrates are your typical starches, you know, whether it's bread, rice, pasta, potato, maize meal, wherever you are in the world, it's going to look different. And that's a lot of what I talk about in my page, is that you don't need to give up cultural foods to lose weight. You just need to know what they are, when to have them, and how much to have of them, because that's where the power is, in that knowledge. And of course, you've got your protein foods like your fish and your chicken and your beef and your lamb and your nuts and your eggs and your dairy products, and then all your colorful vegetables, right? And fruit generally tends to be advised to have as like a snack, typically. So that is a very gentle way of approaching your nutrition. Number one, it helps you achieve quality and balance in your meals. And number two, you will notice that you will naturally also end up eating less because you're portioning your foods the right way. So instead of going in at your diet and going, right, I need to reduce calories, what can I do? Let me look online. Let's Google how to lose weight. The first thing you're going to see is probably intermittent fasting, paleo, Banting, Atkins diet. Basically, all of them come down to cut out the carbs, right? And we know that nobody is going to last without carbohydrates, right?
Yes.
So we can try it and we can prove to ourselves that it works. But the reality is, if you can't stick to it, did it actually work? Because whatever solution you choose, it has to be forever. Otherwise, what's the point of going on a diet? Like, is it just so that you can fit into the dress temporarily, and then what? So the approach and the mindset of women when it comes to reducing their fat, it really has to come from a deeper meaning than just, I need to fit into a dress or look good at this person's wedding, because those temporary motivations will also fail eventually, because they're not forever solutions. But if you say that, I want to be healthy, I want to have more energy so I can be the best version of myself, so I can be a good mom, so I can play with my kids, these are lasting reasons and motivators, right? Or I want to reduce my risk of diabetes, or you know, those kind of things, right? So when I work with clients, it's a lot of work on the mindset. Then we look at the diet and we work on the quality and the portions to get yourself into that deficit of calories. But then we look at, how do we manage stress, sleep, and movement as well, because they all interplay together. So is the reason you're eating too many calories because you struggle with emotional eating? Is the reason you're eating too many calories because your plate is not balanced? You know, is it because you're relying on takeaway foods too much? Are you having not enough fiber in your diet? There's so many different things that can happen. But if I always say, if I have to give one piece of advice that really, really helps and covers the most, it's work on your plate looking like this. It will really be the biggest game changer for you. Whether you're at a wedding, or you're at a buffet, at the hotel breakfast, wherever you are, you can apply this. You have control over what you put in your plate. And so this, I always find, is just a fantastic tool. And you can download this free from my website as well. There's a plate model with cultural foods.
So I'm just trying to understand. So half is the vegetables, is that correct?
Yeah, half veggies.
Quarter is the protein, and then another quarter is the carbs, and in the middle a little bit of fat. That's it. Awesome.
That is like the easiest way to say nutrition 101 in a single picture.
And so when you have the quality food, and it's more likely that your body will feel shaded as well. So you don't have to keep going back for another pile of food, right?
100%, right? It slows down your eating. You feel satisfied for longer, and you have more control over your appetite as well. Whereas if you were going to have a plate that was just 2-minute noodles and that was lunch, well, you're going to be hungry again very soon afterwards because your body's going to digest that quick
Yes.
and it's going to be ready for the next fix.
Next one. Yeah. So I think we have another question. So what are some easy ways to maintain our healthy weight? I think that plate of what you have just shown, I think that will be the great example for us to, you know, like it's very simple for us, like people like us mums, right? For women, instead of thinking counting calories on this scale, if we just roughly put that idea in a half veggies, a quarter of the protein, quarter of the carbs, and in the middle, tiny little bit of fats. That's awesome. Yeah. So would that sum it up? That our
I mean, absolutely. That's probably the most powerful tool in terms of what to eat, in terms of just giving and how much to eat. But there, of course, are other elements that you need to think about. If you can't stick to it, what else is going on and what else do I need to work on? And the how to eat, I also feel is very powerful. So I think 2 or 3 tips that I can give on that would be present in your food, and when you sit down to have a meal, try not to be rushed and not to be mindlessly eating. I know we live busy lives, but when you're present with your food, you can focus on what you're eating, you can chew slowly and carefully, and also the longer you take to eat, you're going to feel satisfied on less because you're giving your body time to release the hormone that makes you feel full. So we have one hormone that makes us feel full and we have one that makes us feel hungry, right? And when food, or particularly protein, hits your tummy, that's your body's sign to start producing that hormone that makes you feel satisfied or full, right? Which is called leptin. So we want to slow down our eating and be mindful of our eating. And that also is incredibly powerful when it comes to changing your eating habits, is slow down, chew thoroughly, take a couple of breaths before you reach for the next bite, and really just like secure out times in your day where it's like, this 20 minutes is for breakfast, you know, rather than I'm at my desk hoovering through a stir fry and still replying emails. I know we live in this world where everything is fast paced, but you can also set boundaries for yourself and let people know that, guess what? Yes, I get paid. Yes, I have a job, but I also have a right for a lunch break, and exercise the right. Because you very much have that in your contracts. So do it. Even if it's at home and you have work from home, set an alarm and make sure you stop and prioritize that. If I do not eat lunch, I'm going to binge in the afternoon. If I do not eat lunch, I'm going to get a headache. If I do not eat lunch, I'm going to be irritable and cranky. Think about why it's important. Set an alarm, have a plan, and do it.
Yes. So, and as well as that plate to maintain our healthy weight for women, that example of plate, and then managing stress, sleep, food, and the activity, right? Stay active. Yes. Okay. So our last question I wanted to ask is, when do you know that person needs extra support, not just a dietitian? What would you, how would you know for that? How would you,
So if you're working with a dietitian, they'll be pretty good at catching on to, hey, there's some extra support here. So I'll give you some ideas or some examples. So for women who, for example, might have underlying health conditions, like for PCOS, endometriosis, these are very specific to women's health. If these underlying conditions are not being treated, then trying to make changes to your diet alone is not going to magically make the symptoms disappear, because diet, a lot of the time, it takes time, right? And it depends how far you are on that spectrum. So sometimes you will need medical intervention. So this is where a dietitian should refer you on. So in conjunction with working on your diet, you will also need to take certain medications, or you will need to manage other elements of that condition. So medical conditions are a big reason where medical staff need to probably be involved in that care process. And for women who also, for example, struggle with emotional eating or have a long-standing history of eating disorders, we may very well want them to work side by side with a psychologist. So while the dietitian is talking about food and working on their relationship with food, there may be some underlying things that they need to work on. So some clients, for example, might have, let's say, ADHD. That's like a really common diagnosis as well. There may be like strategies and approaches that they need to be working on with their psychologist in order to be able to do the things that the dietitian tells them to do. So there's again, mental health is probably works very side by side with what dietitians do, because changing your eating habits, you're changing a behavior. Eating is a behavior, and psychologists change behaviors. So we are literally aligned.
Yeah.
And the psychology around food is so important as well. So these would be times where it'd be like, okay, maybe you might need to go away and work a little bit on your mental health, for example, or try and get yourself into a groove of just managing your daily life and getting on top of things. And you're feeling a bit better, then we'll come back and we'll start fine-tuning your diet a little bit more. So mental health practitioners are also going to be incredibly helpful. And I would say those are the two main ones. And then, of course, if you are struggling, for example, with movement, like maybe you've got a history of a back injury or something, and you might want like a physio or personal trainer to create something curated for you so that you stop making the excuse of not moving because you're scared of getting hurt. You might want to bring in that kind of professional to come in and give you that advice around, okay, well, this is safe for you to do, this is when to stop. And create like a little bit of a program for you of, okay, this is what you can do. So those are just a couple of examples I can think of where you would need more than just the dietitian. But 9 times out of 10, it really is just a holistic approach. Like there's always going to be lots of things happening. Someone's got sleep apnea, we're going to send them to the sleep clinic, and so on.
Yeah, fantastic. It's not just a one-person job, right? It's the teamwork, because human body is so complicated, isn't it?
It is.
Exciting. And the last, the paragraph that I wanted to mention was that from Sam, that who said about the overweight, the obesity that we spoke about. She wasn't happy about it, and she said, not happy about, but she wanted to mention and express that it is based on BMI, which is a crude maths equation. Like you have already mentioned that at the beginning of our talk. So if people would like to know more about BMI, body mass index, so please go at the beginning, a recorded version of our beginning of the conversation, and you will get to know what it is more about, and understanding the term rather than but anyway, I think we're at our end of the questions. I think we spoke a lot. And if any of our viewers has any question, please shoot through to Fathima, and she is very knowledgeable. And and if you have any question, please shoot through. And while we're waiting for the question, please, Fathima, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I have a website, which is eatsmartdietetics.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Eat Smart Dietetics. And if you jump onto my Instagram, which is cultural_dietitian, you will be able to find all the links on the link in my bio. So you'll be able to go to my website, see my free resources. I've also got some meal plans and some ebooks that are available for purchase on different topics. And of course, you'll be able to see my services if you are interested in getting some of that as support. And you can see some of the different packages and programs that I have as well. well, in terms of coaching and working with me directly. I have quite a few different options for people, from one-on-one coaching to group programs, to just wanting a meal plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, you
And
can
do
find me
you
through email.
do, yeah, so do you do telehealth as well as online as
Yes.
well?
So all my consultations are predominantly done online via Zoom. So
Okay.
we do telehealth. I do have coverage for those in Australia, in terms of like Medicare. So if a doctor has like referred you using like an ECP or anything like that, we can definitely use that coverage from Medicare, and even private health insurance like Bupa, Cigna. What's the other main one we use? Medibank.
Medibank.
Most of them
Yeah.
will cover, because as long because I'm registered with all the relevant bodies. So
Yeah.
if you want to use
Yeah.
private health insurance,
Yeah.
that's there too.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I think it's time for us to close the topic because
Yeah,
because it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and you give us so many things to take away today, and to just to reduce the stigma around being overweight
yeah,
or obese is not just that title itself, but it's so much more.
yeah,
And the more we understand, the better we can manage in our own way, right?
yeah.
Thank you, Yaron. Yeah, says thank you for this. And so thank you everyone for coming here, and thank you, Fatima, for coming, and for yeah, absolutely, it's been absolute pleasure to have you, and yeah, and we forever grateful. Thank you
You
so much for coming.
are most welcome. It is a very complex topic, so
Yes,
yeah, there was a very broad look into it, but of course there's specific areas and specific topics
yes,
within this whole industry. And if you are interested in learning on the story of BMI, I do have a post, which I'll find the link for and send to you as well,
yeah,
where I wrote out the whole detailed history of where
mm-hmm.
BMI came from, how it started, all of that. And you'll feel very empowered once you read it and understand and go,
Absolutely,
oh, because a lot of the time what you just need to do is, when you get to the clinic, just advocate for yourself. Prove that
yes,
you know what you're talking about. And we
mm-hmm.
all need to be advocates for our health.
Yeah,
The health professionals that we have are amazing. Sometimes they're tired, sometimes they're busy, sometimes
mm-hmm.
they might overlook things.
Yeah,
And so it's important for us to also be informed, so that we can guide our own health care, rather than completely leaving it on
health
just someone to tell us what to
professionals.
do. So yeah, I think being informed is always a very powerful tool as women, especially in the weight field, where we tend to have people classify us or push us in a certain direction because we now meet this criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a, yeah, hot topic, but it was really fun to talk about
Yes,
as
we
well.
did
Thank you
it.
so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having my back. And then, because we can't just hide it. We have to talk about these
We do.
kind of uncomfortable topics. And so, thank you so much for coming here today. And yeah, sorry everyone, we are about to leave. And thank you for joining in anyway. And please watch our recorded version. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you. Bye.
Fatima.
Leave
Thank you
a
so
comment.
much.
Bye.
Bye.